Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So I kind of did a coaching call with a pretty high income W-2 couple where they have good income. And they're kind of asking me for advice. And I wanted to kind of share some of my insights that I've gained or remind myself while talking to them. And the first question is how do I get started today? And it kind of brought me back to there's a kind of new type of new builds now where they have something called a next gen suite where you have the main house and then attached to it you kind of have its own individual 1 bedroom, 1 bath, little kitchenette, bathroom unit that has its own door. Sometimes it has its own garage too, so it's almost like a little private attached 1 bedroom apartment. So what's kind of nice about that is it's historically used for in-laws or if you have guests over. But if it's just a couple where you're not married, there's no kids yet, you can live in the main house, have your privacy, right? Maybe the main house is a 4 bedroom, 3 bath. You can have your privacy. You live in the master. You have the whole house to yourself, and then you can actually rent out the 1 bedroom attached next gen suite to somebody. And if it's in Los Angeles, you can get $2,000 a month in rent potentially, and they have their own entrance, their own kitchen, their own bathroom, maybe their own garage in some cases, or if not, they just park outside on the street. And then it's a great way to subsidize your cost because you can get the house with 10% down. So let's say it's $1 million. You can put 10% down, which is $100,000, and then from there, your total loans will be $900. And given today's interest rates, your payments gonna be high, but you can offset it by $2,000 a month by renting out this unit and then never seeing this person. So it's kind of a soft way to get into being a landlord. And then what's even crazier is you could from there, let's just say you live there for a year or 2 years, and then you do it again. You buy another next gen suite, a house of a next gen suite, 10% down. Live in the main house, rent out the next gen suite, and then you rent out the whole last house. Or you can convert that whole last house into an Airbnb. You can manage it as an Airbnb for about 6 to 12 months. Do a cost segregation study on that house, do bonus depreciation, actively participate in it, right? So you manage Airbnb yourself, or you and your wife manage it yourself. And then from there, you can wipe off your active income and pay little to no in taxes. And then after that, because Airbnbs are too rigorous to manage and time intensive, and laws change as well and regulations change for Airbnb, convert it to a long-term rental. Hopefully it makes enough money that it makes sense as a rental, long-term rental as well. So it has to make sense as both a long-term and a short-term rental. And then you repeat that process again. Then you move into the next house, 10% down, convert the last house into Airbnb, do a cost seg, bonus depreciation, and you continue that circle over and over and over again, right? And I was just saying that if you invest in California, so they're from California, you make your wealth through appreciation, not so much cash flow, right? So you have to be willing to at most break even or take a little bit of a slightly negative hit in cash flow initially, and hopefully over time your rents will raise or you can refinance and lower your rates so you can take that hit. But if you hold into real estate in California long term, the appreciation is massive, right? At least it was since 2017. Now one can argue, did it hit the peak? Did not hit the peak, but I think in California, especially LA or the Bay Area, there's not as much land. So housing is scarce. Right now in my community, it's all new construction, but they're building a lot. So home prices haven't gone up. But the moment they stop building, that's when home prices will skyrocket, right? So you want to get in while they're building in the early phases. So I say that's an option, right? Where you could become a landlord by having a house as a next gen suite right next to it. You rent that out for $2,000 a month. You can see what it's like to be a landlord. And if you like that, you can go buy another house, right? If you don't like it, then you just move out the tenant or you can keep that there. You can manage it as a long-term rental or short-term rental Airbnb, right? If it's furnished, you can treat it like an Airbnb and get your feet wet there as well. So that's the option, right? So that's option one. Or another option is you could do out-of-state rentals, right? Obviously, if you can afford something in California and 10% down, California is $80,000. $80,000 gets you 25% down in Huntsville, Alabama, which is $300K, right? Roughly. And then from there, you can own a property that maybe cash flows a little better, but it's not going to appreciate as fast compared to California. So, and then it was funny that the couple was saying why not both? Well, it's not California or Huntsville, it's California and Huntsville. And I was just yeah, that's the beauty of having options, right? And I was just telling them because you're W-2, right? Because you're a great W-2, because you have a great business, because you make high income, like you have options, right? You only get options when you have high income. When you have high income and you have low expenses, you have margin. And when you have margin to invest, that's when you have options, right? So you can do both. I said you can literally buy your house in California, 10% down, next gen, rent out that room, and then save your money to go buy something out of state and try both, right? And maybe you'll find you like one over the other, or maybe you don't like either of them, right? So that's what I was telling them. I was like, just try that. And from there you could scale, right? And I was just telling them, and hopefully it didn't go over their head because like, they're beginners, but I was just saying like, if you want to get deals today, you have to buy right. So I'm lowballing new construction right now, like in Huntsville, Alabama. Like literally, like I saw this deal where it price cut from 330 to 290 and I offered 220 because I want to make sure that I buy it all cash. So give me a discount, right? I'm asking for a 25% discount because I'm paying all cash. And then after that, I'm going to rent it out, do a cash out refinance, which is 75% loan to value cash out refi. So that means I buy at a 25% discount. So I pull up my initial money I put in there. So I'll pull up my 220. And at 220 at 7% interest, the total cost, property tax, insurance, HOA is roughly around, I think $1,900 a month. And this rents for $2,100. So after property management, it's a break even, or I make a little bit of money. Maybe cash flow $100, $200, $150 a month. Just call it break even, right? Because I need reserves for capex, vacancies, repairs, and whatnot. So I basically buy a deal with no amount of money in there. And it's able to cash flow enough that it self-sustains itself with $0 amount of money in the deal. So it's called a new construction BRRRR. But how did I make that happen? I bought it right. Another thing I told them too is if you have to buy off market, because if you depend on realtors to get you good deals, it's going to be hard because, 10% of the realtors are good and they're bringing it to their best clients, probably not me and you because we're newer. So the 90% of realtors that we'll come across, they're not going to be good. So that's why I said I like to go direct to the seller. So I said, if you come in, go off market, talk direct to the seller, and you do your the 3 offer deal, right? The 3 offer deal. So what's the 3 offer deal? It's basically straight debt service coverage ratio loan. That's my lowest offer. My middle offer is the 50-40-10. So 50% comes from Velocity Mortgage, 40% seller carries second at ideally 1% interest, 10% comes from me, and then the last offer, which is the highest, is assuming it's free and clear. It's 10% down, 90% seller carry, right? So that's how I structure my 3 offers, and then hopefully they pick one of the 3. And then I told them you have to make a lot of offers because it takes a lot of work. Right? It takes a lot of work to do that. So, from there, I was just saying like, you have options, but just know the first 10 years suck. And they're just like so shocked when I said that. And they're like, I'm glad you told me that, because I told them that like, dude, I'm on year 8 of 10 and I'm still in the years of suck. Like you would think my position today, 52 units, $6 million net worth, $10K a month in positive cash flow. Why am I saying it still sucks? Because I still feel broke. I still feel poor, right? Because I know that the money that I get, $10,000, is being saved up to build my emergency reserve because I need an emergency reserve. And I cannot live off this money just yet. But once I'm able to live off that money, that's when it starts to become very powerful, right? And they're just like so shocked, like, wow, I just reframed their perspective. Like if you do this, it's going to feel shitty because I saved $100,000. I buy a house 10% down. I have no money. I feel broke. I have to save $100,000. I put 10% down. I have no money. I feel broke. And now my expenses are increasing because even though I'm getting rental income, I still know that I'm responsible for this mortgage. If the tenant doesn't pay, if the tenant has a repair issue, I'm responsible for that. So I feel broke and poor. And they're just like, wow, I never thought of it that way. Because for them right now, they said they got cheap rent, like half what the rent should be because they locked in so long ago. And they haven't raised the rents. I'm like, you're in a perfect position now. Like you are making good money. Your rent is cheap. You're able to save money. So now you can save for a down payment. So you can do what you want. It's fine to just pay your rent in California, which is dirt cheap. Buy something out of state. Get some cash flow. Like you can literally buy 2 in Huntsville, Alabama, and maybe or 2 or 3, and that's enough to probably cover your rent, right? And now you're living rent free. Or if you want a house for yourself because you're planning to get married and you're planning to have a family, then by all means. You could just buy a house of a next gen suite if you want, and new construction, and then do that yourself. Or you can buy a house and build an ADU and then rent out the backyard, right? But that's a lot more work, obviously, compared to buying something with a next gen suite attached to it. So they were really shocked and like, wow, we gotta like discuss our options here, because I just said that like in the beginning when you first get started, the first 1 year to 1 to 5, it's all about leverage. You want to put as low down as possible, extend your dollar as far as possible, because I'm working for my down payment, for my W-2. So I want to, if I want to buy $1 million house, I'd rather save up $100,000 versus $200,000. It'll take me twice as long to save up $200,000. So I want to get in on the deal, save for $100,000, and then save for another $100,000. I buy another house. I'll buy 2 houses instead of 1. Right? I'd rather buy 2 houses at 10% down versus 1 house at 20% down. Right? So because that was my goal in scaling and trying to hit financial freedom. But luckily for this couple, at least, like, it doesn't seem like early retirement's on their mind. It doesn't seem like they want to, like, not work. So I said, if that's the case, even better for you, right? Because you're making great money. You just got to invest over time, and you can build an amazing portfolio while working full time. And it was funny because they thought, oh, you must not work at this point. And I just said, no, actually, I do work. So they're surprised, like, wow, I would expect like someone with 52 units, $6 million plus net worth, they wouldn't work. But I'm like, I do work because I still feel broke and poor, right? Because I want to make sure that my assets are stabilized. I want to make sure that I build up a big reserve because I'm planning to have kids and a family. I want to make sure that all the major CapEx stuff gets repaired. I want to make sure that, because you learn a lot just by owning real estate and observing it, right? And I want to see what moves I need to make on my portfolio as I'm in the stabilization phase, right? And transitioning over towards potential early retirement, transitioning over to a more conservative portfolio as I plan to have kids and a family. Because when I have kids and a family, I don't want to leverage as much, right? I don't want to leverage as much. But like I said, like I told my realtor, like, I don't need to buy, but if I have a good deal, I'll buy it, right? Like, I don't need to buy, but there's a good deal, I'll buy it. And a good deal for me is offering all cash at a 25-30% discount. So, kind of same thing. Like, why not do the same thing? So that's really the mindset that I've had. And kind of one message I left with them, I said, I want you guys to take action. Like, just pick a route. Don't regret it. Just pick whatever route you want to pick. And look at your upside, your best case scenario, and your worst case scenario. And can you accept the worst case scenario? If the answer is yes, then just take the route, pick it, take action, and then see if you like it. If you don't like it, pivot. If you do like it, continue doing it. Do it again, right? So that's why I said, I just don't want them sitting on the sideline, because 5 years will fly by and then home prices might have skyrocketed and then you didn't take action. So, I said that and they kind of took that to heart, and I was like, yeah, because I want to hit that message, like, take action, because I don't want you looking back and regretting, like, take the risk. I said, okay, your worst case scenario is you buy this house. Look at the monthly cost. Let's just say you rent it out. Let's say your monthly cost, like, I'll just give an example for my house here. Let's just say, worst case here, I bought this as my rental property. My all-in cost is $7,500 a month. Let's just say I can rent it out for $5,000. I'm negative cash flow, $2,500 a month. Could I take that hit? I probably could, because I'm still working my W-2. I might have to pick up overtime. I might have to, like, rent out a room where I'm currently living, or downsize where I'm currently living, or move back to my parents to save money. Could I do that? Yeah. Is it ideal? No. But it's an option. I'm not going to be homeless. Or if, let's just say, I were to lose my job, or Christine were to lose her job, and now we lost our income, like, what do? We'd probably rent out the 2 rooms that we have here for probably $1,200 each, and give us $2,500 to subsidize our costs. So now instead of paying $7,500, we're paying $5,000, and then I'd have to find a job somewhere else, right? So, like, or worst case, you sell this house, sell it for a loss, take the hit, and then move back to Christine's parents' house, right? Like, so, like, you have to look at your worst case scenario and, like, can you take that risk? And I told him that, like, as you get married, as you start to plan for a family, your risk tolerance can go down even further, right? It's gonna go down even further. So it's really that mindset you need to have, like, can you take this risk now? And there's only certain risks you can take when you have no kids and family versus not. So this is your window of opportunity to make that risk, right? So, like, that's really the point I was, like, trying to hit across as well. I was like, just take action, pick a route, do it, don't regret it. And I told him, you can do both. Like, you're in such a good position. Like, it's perfectly fine to stay put and rent because your rent's so cheap. I was telling them, like, your rent, I pay 5 times as much to live in my house as you do to rent your apartment, which is a steal. So you have good rent. Like, you can just buy rentals out of state in Huntsville, never see it, dabble into real estate, or you just can buy a house that you intend to move in as a primary residence, change your mind and say, I don't want to move in there as a primary residence because I'm just going to continue renting here at $1,500 a month, and then rent out that house, and then hopefully it breaks even or makes some cash flow. And then say, well, I had the intent to move in, so I put 10% down, but didn't work out, maybe whatever. You know, the bank just needs to know your intent, whether you actually do it. You know, it doesn't matter. But you need the intent to move in there. Or or you can like have the intent to move into a duplex, but in reality, you just stay in your apartment and rent out both units. And then you do that again. Like, I intend to move over here, but you stay in your apartment and do your desk. So I said, you're in a really good position. So like, you know, it was kind of interesting. Like, I can see their mindset shift a little bit, and they're like taking notes. Cause like, I just met these people, but I could like tell them many options, and they're just like, now I can see them thinking like more like, wow, like I never knew that was an option. Wow. I didn't know that was that cheap. Wow. I didn't know about that. Right. So I was like literally telling like what I would do in this situation. And they're trying to learn from my skills and my experience, because I've been in the game for like 8 years now. Right. And I like to think creatively and leverage and like try to build wealth. So, you know, like, you know, on the call, I was like just trying to bring more value than what they pay me. That's always my goal, and share what I'm doing. Cause like, this is what I'm doing and this is what works for me. And maybe you can learn a thing or two. Right. And maybe it'll inspire you in a way. So, you know, I think for them, it was just nice hearing from, I guess, me, a more experienced investor, that like you have options. You're in a good position. Number one. Number two is you have options. Like, you can literally buy a house of a next gen suite and buy a house in Huntsville, Alabama, or out of state if you want to. Like, you don't have to pick. It's not or, it's and. And that's what like the fiance said to me. I was like, oh, you have the right mindset. Right. And then, you know, they were saying that like, oh, well, you know, the guy is more risk taking, more entrepreneurial, than the girl is more conservative, W-2. And I'm just like, well, I'm exactly the same. Me and my wife are exactly the same. Like, I'm more risk taking. I took my risk. She's more conservative, but now we're at the point where we're on the same page, and then we take calculated risk together. But obviously I'm not going to like bet the whole farm, because I have something to lose now. But back when I had nothing to lose, I could be more aggressive and be more aggressive. So that's really the mindset that I had. So anyways, let me know what questions you have. Hopefully you found some value from this video. Just wanted to share my thoughts, my experience, especially for somebody who's like a first-time home buyer, and to navigate an expensive market. And like I said, the cheat code to being successful in real estate is having a high income W-2. Like, focus on making higher income in your W-2. Like, that's for the everyday person, that's the best way to do it. Move up the ladder, go to a career that pays better. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it's hard, but that's the cheat code. Have a nice W-2 job, keep your expenses low, invest the difference. That's what worked for me, right? So anyways, if you want one-on-one coaching, you want my courses, my mentorship, click my link tree down below. From there, you can see a link to my courses, my coaching. You can send me an email as well to my link tree. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.